Hey guys, welcome to Jam's Adventures. I'm Jam, and my last segment I did a big introduction, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much in this video. We talked about, I'm having a lot of traumas in my life right now, a lot of issues with a lot of people, and my relationships are breaking down partly because of my personality and past beliefs, and I'm having a hard time dealing with it, and I'm sharing it to get it off my chest, but I'm also sharing it to hopefully that someone out there is going through similar things, and that this is going to kind of be know that it's okay, that we're all, I think all of us have issues at times like this in our life. So I'm hoping that this sharing this is going to help people. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, because that's kind of where it started, and how my personality formed, and then I'll talk to you about why that created my personality, or my trauma and my past created a personality, and that personality has been a problem because people have had a hard time relating to me. And even though I have a big family and a lot of kids, and I love my children, and I probably am a good dad, I'm also a bad dad. Good dad and a bad dad. So the duality of personality, the cursings and the blessings, and that's what I'm kind of calling it, cursings and blessings. And so I'm sweating. Try to keep the sweat from running in my face. All right. So we're at Orange Beach here in Alabama. It's crowded today, but I found a quiet spot in between the condominiums and the hotels where there's not a lot of people. People flock together, so I'm kind of like, there's a spot where there's not people. Here we go. So when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's house. And I go there for a week or two sometimes during the summer, and I spend a lot of time out there. I loved my grandmother, and we spent a lot of time with my grandmother, my specific grandmother. But I was 5 years old, and when I was 5 years old, one of my family members introduced me to something that kind of affected my life, that changed me to something else. I was kind of innocent. My mom and dad were great moms and dads, so we went to church. We were Baptists, so we didn't have a lot of experience with, things like what I'm about to say, but this was kind of my first experience to this type of stuff, and it created some problems for me that I've had to fight and kind of get over. So, helicopter flying over. When I was 5 years old, staying at my grandmother's house, a family member, actually the family member was a kid too. I was 5, and this family member was only a little bit older. Sorry. Instead of trying to fight the helicopter, I figured I'd just show it to you. Tours on the beach. Helicopter tours of the beach here at Orange Beach, Alabama. So there were times that this family member that was a little kid herself, she would do things. She asked, I guess my family had pornography in the house, and she would pull out these magazines, these Playboy, Playgirl, whatever they were, and show me these magazines. And by the way, what I'm about to say is probably not kid friendly or appropriate. So if you have kids, this is not one of my videos to watch with your kids. And I'm going to keep it clean, but still, it's not appropriate for kids, even though I'm going to try to keep it clean. But they would pull out these magazines, and we would look through them. And like I said, this is not something I'd ever experienced before. But from looking at these magazines, and then they would point at pictures and in these magazines and tell me to do things. And of course, I'm 5 years old, and I don't know any better. This is one of my family members that I spend a lot of time with and I trust. So I just did it. We would go through that magazine and point at pictures, and whatever was going on in those pictures, I was told to do, and I did. And Now there's a helicopter. Now there's an airplane flying over. Popular Beach. Lots of helicopters and airplanes flying over, and that might be that way. So, yeah, that happened. And, you know, I was 5 years old, so I couldn't process it. And I haven't even been able to process it until I have been 50 years old. But throughout my life, what has happened because of that is I have been self-conscious about things. It made me very protective of people, because I knew that I didn't know why really it was wrong at that point, but I knew it was wrong, and I knew that it wasn't right, and that I was ashamed of what we did. But with that said, how does a 5-year-old process that? I kind of just left it, put it somewhere, and just went on with my life like any 5-year-old. When, you know, something bad happens to a 5-year-old, they cry, and then they get over it, and then they go on. So that's kind of what happened. You know, I kind of forgot about it, but unfortunately, this is the type of thing that doesn't never go away. It sticks inside of you like glue, and it gets on everything inside of you, and it creates something that you probably didn't want in your life. And that's what it did. It created a heart issue for me. And it created some strengths. It created strengths, but it also created some struggles. And those struggles have been struggles that I've dealt with my relationships. So for instance, in my adult life, I never liked to change diapers, and that made my wife resent me because she thought I was lazy. But the reason I didn't like to change diapers is because that reminded me of trauma. I didn't even realize that until now, but now the fact that I couldn't change diapers because it made me uncomfortable, and the fact that I've always had, you know, bad thoughts that I tried to fight, and I fight against those bad thoughts all the time. You know, things like things I shouldn't think sometimes. Just crazy, weird stuff will pop in my mind, and I have to fight those things, and I've had to stand against those things. But I've been able to do it. So it made me stronger in that respect. I've been able to, even though I fight all that all the time, I have a particular perspective on why that happens. That's from my biblical beliefs. That, you know, sometimes I believe in good, I believe in evil, I believe in God, I believe in the devil, and I think that the devil can put things in our head, and I think that the devil used that event in my life to get a keyhole into my personality and my thinking, and he uses that against me. But I've been able to fight against it because I grew up in a Christian home, and I was a Baptist, not necessarily a Baptist now. Now I'm a little more non-denominational, but with that said, that upbringing gave me some good tools, and my belief in God came from that, and that was good. But you know, I did know a little bit about the Bible, and that is what helped me to get through some of these times throughout my life. But not only it gave me a heart for other people, because I stand up for other people. I don't like people to be bullied. I don't like people to get hurt, and I don't want people to hurt. And I've always tried to stand up for people. It created, you know, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I always want to help people. I try to help, you know, people anytime I can, and but I also have empathy for people. But that's good and bad. Empathy is good, but I think this empathy has created an issue where I have too much empathy, where I take on when people tell me their problems, I take those problems and they become my problems, and I take it personally. I need to learn. That's something I'm fighting on right now, is learning not to take things personally, but I do. I've taken things personally that probably shouldn't have. When people tell me their problems, those problems hit me really hard. So when I was in the wilderness program, working with teens that you know, had sexual trauma, and I don't know how this is. I can't explain it, but you know, the ones with sexual trauma. Here's the thing: I didn't realize last year what I realize now. So all this sexual trauma stuff I'm talking about in my life, I wasn't at that point last year to accept this. So, but one thing I did notice that I realize now is that sexual trauma victims can have a sixth sense and can tell when other people have had issues. And specifically, you know, I think it affects guys too, because I'm a guy. But you know, in the wilderness program, it was mostly the girls that were talking about their sexual traumas, not necessarily the guys, even though the guys probably had issues too. But guys don't like talking about sexual trauma, things that happen to us, but you know, we should. So females that were having sexual trauma, you know, the young adults, some of the ladies that didn't. These are ladies that didn't like men because of the things that had happened in their past, because men had hurt them and abused them. So they didn't like men. But for some reason, they picked me out of a crowd, and out of all the instructors, they would come and talk to me. So when we were hiking or whatever, we would be in the very back of the line, and they would want to come and talk to me and tell me things, and I would listen because that was what I was there for. And they would tell me their issues and their traumas, and I would empathize with them, and that was great because I'm like, wow, this is great that they're willing to talk to me, and hopefully I can say something and encourage them and help them through this healing process. But that is where I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. I took that, and when I went home to my family, that's when that stuff started to hit me, and my own traumas in my life, my sexual trauma, started to wake up and started to bother me. I didn't realize it last year, but it started to cause depression, and because I was having over empathy for people, and I wasn't able to protect myself, and I was personalizing things I shouldn't have personalized, and so that was causing issues for me, and I didn't realize it, but it was creating a depression. And because I believe in the devil, I think the devil was using that against me to put some depression inside of me. So that's the negative and positive, because it was creating some strengths in me to help people, but it was also creating a weakness inside, because it started with this little black hole, and that black hole grew and grew and grew, and it started building up inside of me until I had to throw it up 6 weeks ago, and that's what happened. It got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. So from working in this therapy program, I started to learn all these therapy skills. And what I realized in this therapy program was, oh my God, all of us need to be in therapy. Working with these kids, I realized I need to be in therapy. These are regular teenagers with regular problems, and I had these same issues, but yet here they are in therapy. And I guess I needed to be in therapy, but I needed to learn these skills, and I never had them. I'm 50 years old. Why didn't it take me this long to learn all these skills that these kids are learning? But it's true. I started to see that all of us are broken. All of us have issues. All of us need to be in therapy. Just all of us can't afford therapy. So I started taking some of these therapy things home, and I started to realize that I haven't been a perfect dad. I try, but I've always had anger issues, and I always know that sometimes I am a little more angry with my kids than I need to be, and there's a reason for that, but we'll get to that. But because of that, last year I was really trying to use some of the therapy skills. I would come home and I would take my kids in the backyard. We would build a fire just like we do out in the wilderness, and we would sit around that fire, and I would try to talk to my wife and kids and ask them things, and just like we do in therapy. But the problem was they didn't get it. And that created a problem. That made them think, oh my God, what is wrong with my dad? So my kids, I know now, were scared of me. My kids don't like to talk to me. And when I'm sitting here and talking and saying all these things and trying to get us to open up and have communication with each other, my kids weren't biting. And matter of fact, I learned now that my kids have trauma from my trauma and from me, because I'm an angry person, and I have reacted to them wrong and done things that have made them resent me. I've done things that made them not want to talk to me. So now my kids don't really know how to talk to me. And I have a lot of kids. I am 50 years old, and I have been married since I was in high school, and I've always been married, always had kids in my life, and right now I still have 5 kids at home, and my whole life we've always had a lot of kids. Me and my wife, we've had, between the two of us, we have 11 kids together. I mean, not together, but we've both been married before, and we have a total of 11 kids. And well, actually 12, because I consider my wife had a miscarriage a few years back, and I consider that one of our kids, and so that child would have made it 12. So I was trying really hard to reach out to my kids. Like I said in the last video, I was traveling back and forth to Idaho from Missouri. My kids were going with me, and I was taking them, and we were doing lots of things that I thought was fun for them. It turns out that things that I like, my kids don't necessarily like, and they resent me because I decided to create a video channel called Jam's Adventures, and I wanted my family to be a part of that. My kids have some of my sons know editing stuff and have music, so I've tried to make them a part of my channel. And when I do adventures, I like my family to go with me, and I want them to talk and experience this and be a part of my video channel. And I don't know, that didn't go well, so it's created some strife, and I didn't mean for it to. I wanted this video channel to bring us closer together. It was something we could do together. And I always, kids these days, they like YouTube. Everybody wants to be a YouTube star. So I was like, well, how about you guys? Why don't you guys, they are always talking about all these YouTubers, families, these YouTube families that make videos, and they make all this, they're famous. So I was like, all right, well, we'll make YouTube videos, and maybe we'll have a famous family. So, but I'm not famous. My YouTube channel is not famous. But you guys like and subscribe. Maybe one day I'll be famous. But the problem is, my kids resented me for wanting to do all these things. And while other people are looking at me like, oh my God, you do so much stuff with your kids. I can't believe, look at all the places you went. You went all over the Northwest, national parks, mountains. You climbed mountains. You went caving in lava tubes. You did all these cool things with your kids. But my kids weren't understanding or appreciating those things, even though that was my way of reaching out and spending time with them, because we haven't got to, my kids are getting older, and I'm trying to make up for lost time and, be the best dad I can. But even that, the good and the bad. I was trying to do something good, but it created something bad. So I'm gonna go back in time now. That airplane's flying back over. So just a second, I'll pause it.